Better than a blade? Better than a pure strike?
Maybe. It's the Whiteout from Solinco.
The much lauded Solinco Whiteout, and we finally got our hands on one, Ben.
Yeah, we were threatened to use this by everyone. You have to use the Whiteout. Yes. You must use it, it's the best.
It is.
Yeah.
So the Whiteout we've got is the 305 gram, it's a 98 square inch head, got balance point of 320 mil. And it is of course a 16 by 19 pattern, so pretty open, which we like.
Yes, well I do especially.
So it's quite pure strikey, quite bladey.
Yeah, and it's got that thin, narrow beam that you expect, but not super thin and narrow. It seems like it's going to be a little bit of like a hybrid-y deal, so not quite as flexible.
No.
But in that ballpark, I would say.
Yes, it's got 40T carbon fibre at 3 and 9.
What does that mean?
That is going to enhance, or the aim is for it to enhance stability and extend the sweet spot. Always useful.
Yes, especially on all those off-centre hits that we always have to suffer through. But does it have a foam tech core, Joe?
Yes, it does. And this is Solinco's sort of dampening material.
Yeah.
Enhances feel and reduces vibration dampening.
Very good.
Win-win.
Yes, exactly what you'd like.
In terms of optimising that flex, we've also got liquid crystal technology. I didn't know crystals could be liquid.
I prefer my crystals liquid.
Yes.
Just so disappointing when they come solid, isn't it?
And that is going to optimise the flex, whatever that means. And finally, which is quite cool, they've got weight control modules. So in the butt cap, you can change things around to adjust the weight
down here
to your specifications. So it's sort of semi-customizable straight off the rack. Pretty cool.
Yeah, do you ever use the speed adaptive?
I did not.
No, so about, it must have been 7-8 years ago, you could buy a head speed, but you could replace the grommets and things, so you could change the string pattern, you could change the weight.
Yeah.
Bit of a faff over the top. So having a butt cap you can just pop on and off makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and
straightforward.
it's slightly different, but on some paddle bats, you've got little sort of screws, Allen keys that you can adjust, and you can essentially adjust the swing weight. So not quite that, but something customizable right out the gate is pretty cool.
Yes, so the big criticism with the Solinco Whiteout is the cosmetics. Now this is the version 2, this is the camo version, which doesn't make a huge amount of sense to make a camouflaged version of a white racket, and it doesn't look great.
So
we're not huge fans of the looks, are we?
My issue, well, I mean, unless you're playing in the snow, in sort of urban snow, the white camo is not going to provide much camouflage, especially on a green tennis court or a blue tennis court. My issue with it is the similar sort of issue that I have with the Beast, in that it thinks it's cool by doing this, and camo hasn't been cool since Rambo.
No. Has camo been cool since Rambo? It hasn't, you're right.
No. Actually, well, maybe All Saints made camo cool for a brief spell, but that was more the sort of combat pants rather than the actual camo design itself. So a mark against it in terms of its aesthetics for us, but more importantly, we need to find out how it plays.
Yes, so we have put some Solinco Torbite in the Whiteout, and we strung it at £50 as usual. We're going to go out on court, put it for its paces, and we will report back with more up-to-date All Saints references.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would assume that this is going to be a racket that you like a lot and that I have a little more trouble with, because it's just more in keeping with the sort of rackets that you like. Yes. But we shall find out.
It might take me to the place I love.
That's very good.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah. All right, I am going to give you guys a little peek behind the curtain on this one. So we only had one Solinco Whiteout, and quite often we have 2 or 3 rackets, and sometimes we're doing a whole range. So we can share them out a little bit. But with only one Solinco, there was a little bit of a fight over this one. So I am going to say that I have had the lion's share of the testing, because without, so we don't bury the lead and get it out there early, I really, really, really like this.
Yes, and I don't like it so much, but as Ben said, I've played with it a lot less. So we did a little bit of testing with it. I played probably for about half an hour in one of my coaching sessions. And for me, it was as expected, is that I can see the benefits and I can see why some people would love it. It's not quite the right racket for me.
No, and partly because I used it and then took it off you and wouldn't give it back.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
that was a huge part of it. we often say, and for those of you who've watched our channel before, you know that we love tennis. We think tennis should be fun, and your equipment should aid in that enjoyable experience. Now, the tennis nerds out there will remember the Technofiber T-Fight 305 XTC, which was one of the most fun rackets I've ever used. And since it was discontinued, I've been kind of on a search to find something that is as wild and as joyful as that. And this is it.
So what makes it fun for you? What is it that's that?
You're kind of asking me to explain an emotion, which is quite difficult.
No,
I don't know exactly what it is about the racket, but there is certainly a sense of joy imbued in it. Maybe it just perfectly syncs up with the way I want to play, which is probably a big part of it. But I think it is, like advertised, like suggested, it is a really good all-rounder, where you get so much power out of it, even though it's got the narrow beam, so it's still really flexible. You get really good feel and control. Essentially, I kind of felt like I could play any shot I wanted, whenever I wanted, and it was almost, this is going to sound so trite, like an extension of me. I didn't have to think about the racket at all. It's just, I want that to happen, and it just did. And it sort of just, by removing that, if you've got brain, body, racket, ball, it kind of, the racket stopped being an element of it, and it was just like almost willing the ball to go somewhere, and off it went.
That sounds fabulous. So it's 320mm balance point. Does it feel head heavy? Because I remember with that T-Fight, is that sort of head heavy? Does it sort of flinging its way through? Do you get some of that aspect?
Yes, a little bit, but it doesn't feel unbalanced. So the racket it feels kind of like is the Strike 1620 from Babolat. All the new Strikes actually, and they've got that kind of like, it feels like the weight's at the end, but it doesn't feel like the racket's taking over. That's kind of what I mean. So when you chuck it out there, you do get this little pickup from the tip of the racket. It does sort of go a little bit. And it's without taking you out of control.
Yeah, and it's often compared. Well, it's sort of compared to the Strike, as you've just mentioned, and the Blade. And I really like the Blade, and this doesn't feel the same. I think it doesn't feel fun to me because I don't find it that easy to play with. But I can see that there's a separation there between how the Blade feels in terms of its luxurious sort of Rolls-Roycey, as we often say. The Blade. This doesn't feel like that. This feels much more sports car-y than luxury car.
Yeah, I would go to say it's almost even lower than that. It's kind of like
Fiat 500 Abarth.
Yeah, but only a real weirdo would drive one of them, right? No, it feels like if the Blade is that like luxury Rolls Royce, and then something like the Strike is your sports car, this is like a destruction derby racer. Like you just don't care. It doesn't matter. Like it's just a thing to have as much fun with. And if you obliterate it and it's all broken at the end, you just don't care because you've done it with a smile on your face.
Again, another racket that I prefer. Is the Yonex Percept 97, obviously smaller head, and you've been playing with the 97H quite a lot, so quite a bit heavier. How does it sort of stack up against that?
Well, so what's quite interesting, so we are currently in the middle of a season. We are playing some doubles together as it happens. And we also have started shifting, playing a bit more on hard courts as well. And what I've noticed on the hard court is you've got a bit more time and you just want a bit more from your racket, a bit more weight, a bit more plow through.
Yes.
Which the Percept certainly does. And the Whiteout kind of does it, but in an entirely different way. So whereas the Percept is like a heavy racket being solid through the ball, the Solinco, the Whiteout just feels like it's going quicker. And it will be that balance. It will have some of the weight slightly towards the head, but it's just the maneuverability of it. Like absolutely throw it at the ball, and you just don't feel like you're losing control. So that must be the flex, but with the open string pattern to get loads of spin, with the sort of weight towards the tip of the racket to just give it a bit of extra. So it's like an easier way to play essentially more. So you can get, if you want more spin, you can get loads of spin. If you want more power, you can get loads of power. And it's kind of like, it just delivers it in an entirely different way to something even like an E-Zone or a Pure Drive. They give you loads of power, but in a very different way to the Solinco. This is probably where it stands out the most differently from the Blade and the Strike and the things like the T-Fight is the power. It is way more like easy access to power. Like the Blade feels quite dampened. The Strike maybe just a bit flimsy, not in a bad way, but it was like the Whiteout feels solid and flexible all at the same time, which is a combo that every brand promises, but maybe this one actually delivers.
So, any negatives?
One.
Okay.
Well, two. The cosmetics I don't like, and this is such a niche thing. The flare on the butt cap isn't quite big enough. So I don't know if you can see that. It's very flat. It doesn't flare out much at the bottom, and compared to almost every other brand. So you do feel slightly like the racket's about to fly out of your hand all the time. But there you go. That's as small as you can get. What was your initial, like, because I know you initially said I really don't like this, and the more you played with it, you got a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that it's working best when you're flinging it around, and that's not, I'm not as comfortable flinging it around. I like everything to be a little more compact, a little shorter, and so I just think there are better rackets for my style of game than that. But I completely see why this racket is so loved and why you enjoyed it so much. So I think it's going to be good for players who like the strike, who like the blade,
absolutely,
who maybe just want a little bit more fun, a little bit more oomph. I think it's definitely worth trying.
So I would suggest if you are a baseline grinder, you're going to have quite a good time with this one. You might struggle defending a little, maybe it's just a little bit, but better than like a blade or a strike. It's certainly good if you want to get the first big shot in and you want to sort of dominate. I'm not a big volleyer, so it felt fine, but I'm not best placed to give you a perfect, but serving with it is an absolute dream. Really, really easy. So, big serves, big ground strokes, loads of spin, loads of fun. Solinco's for you.
There you go. As always, we've got racket reviews, racket top 5s coming out twice a week, so don't forget to subscribe, set those notifications so you never miss a thing from PH Tennis.